All right, welcome everybody. You didn't hear it from me, but something. You know, I get that everywhere I go. Something must be going on here. Welcome everybody, because some history could be made. You know, the debate that holds the record of all time was Carter-Reagan back in 1980. And back then, it commanded 80 million viewers. You know, at a minimum, they're expecting 20 million more for this one. Nothing like a little pressure on both candidates, but it may be to help their humility. The record for all time for television viewing of what event wasn't man walking on the moon. It was the wedding of Charles and Diana. 750 million people worldwide watched that one. So there is a way to stay humble. All right, so what is at stake for tonight? Ron Priebus joins us right now from the Trump Tower. He has been talking to Donald Trump and sort of guiding him throughout this whole process. Ryan, it's always good to have you. You know, right off the bat, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a certain comment you made on a Sunday news show, and then something that transpired just a few days later. Let's go back to the comments that got a lot of people's attention.
Those people need to get on board. And if they're thinking they're going to run again someday, you know, I think that we're going to evaluate the process of the nomination process, and I don't think it's going to be that easy for them.
And lo and behold, what happened just a few days later? Ted Cruz indicating that he is going to support one Donald Trump. I am not saying there is a link, right, but it is interesting. Did you talk to him, or did he hear you?
Well, look, for number one, I'm very grateful to Senator Cruz for supporting our nominee. My comments weren't as much any threats. It's just basically, look, folks have given their word, and in some cases in multiple documents, Neil, not just a pledge but a data exchange agreement. Some haven't signed that, some have. Ballot access agreements in South Carolina. Look, I'm very grateful, though, and I'm also grateful for Senator Cruz because he also laid out a very thoughtful position as to why he supports Donald Trump for president. And let me just say,
well, why
thank
so
you
late?
to,
Why was he so late doing it? And Donald Trump at the time said, when there was this dust-up at the convention, that he wouldn't welcome it, didn't want it. He was grateful for it, obviously, yesterday. But what happened?
Well, look, I think that we've had a pretty bruising primary. I've been pretty open about that, and I think the more bruises you have, sometimes it takes longer to heal. I think it's pretty obvious, but I'm grateful for Senator Cruz. And the last thing I want to say, too, is that his campaign has also been very helpful in retrieving and working with our data department at the RNC. And so even throughout this process, even months earlier, they have been good actors with us the whole way through. So I'm grateful, and I'm not really, I don't want to kind of revisit the past. I'm happy to move forward and happy for his support.
All right. Do you know, Ryan, whether the two are going to be campaigning together?
I don't know that right now, Neil. I think all hands are on deck here, and
I hear you.
And I'm sure that Donald Trump is mostly concerned right now in the debate tomorrow night, and he's working hard, and he'll be great.
You know, Ron, I know you've advised Donald Trump during the primary season you would wince if the attacks got personal. There's plenty of that on the record, and a lot of folks say he can't do any of this. I want you to just get a sampling.
I didn't quite hear the question there, Neil. I'm sorry.
All right, well, that's all right. I was going to throw to some examples of that. I apologize. Let me just say that one of the things that has happened is that he's known, that is, Donald Trump is known for being, you know, very fast, go for the jugular. A lot of folks, yourself included, said, don't even go there. Don't try that. Why? Can you hear?
Breathe. You can do it. You can breathe. I know it's hard. I know it's hard, but just...
You're lucky in Ohio that you struck oil. That's for one thing.
They're not doing
They blew up. Hold it. They blew up. Wait a minute. Built an unbelievable company worth billions and billions of dollars. I don't have to hear from this man. Believe me. We don't need a weak person being president of the United States, okay? Because that's what we'd get if it were I'll tell you what. We don't need that.
All right. Sorry to jump on you there, Ryan, but that's the stuff you don't want to see, right?
Well, look, I mean, it kind of all depends on the circumstances. I mean, I think in those debates it was some wild stuff at times, but it depends on the circumstances. I think that these debates are are going to be a little bit more subdued. There are two people. I think, you know, the importance and the level of things that are happening, obviously, tomorrow night are going to be a different atmosphere altogether.
Do you think that if he can go through this night holding his own, not returning insults back and forth, that the pressure really is on her? Everyone seems to say the pressure is on her. Do you subscribe to that view? Because her camp comes back and says it's being very unfair the way it's being portrayed, that she has a much higher bar.
Well, she does have a high bar. I mean, she's been doing this for over 2 decades, you know, 2.5 decades. She's been Secretary of State. She's been a senator. She's been living politics her entire life. And so, yeah, the expectations are very high on her. And so, look, Donald Trump's never run for public office before. This is his first time. He's on a huge stage. I think he's going to be great. I think the electorate wants the change candidate. They don't want the status quo candidate. But with being the status quo candidate and the person that's made their entire living off of politics, she's going to have to perform at the highest level that we've ever seen.
Reince, thank you very much. As much as they love you out here,
sounds like you're in a sports bar or something.
Very close, but apparently they're handing out free T-shirts. No doubt they say Cavuto. But no, that's what's causing the uproar here. So, and whatever you're saying, of course, Reince. All right, thank you very, very much. We'll see how the debate goes. That's exactly it. All right, I want to go to Larry Sabat of the UVA Center for Politics. And Larry, one of the things that keeps coming up is where they stand going into the debate. The national polls are virtually dead even. So there could be a lot at stake here, maybe not. There are multiple debates, so it's not as if it's all on the first one. But in a way, this one carries added weight because of the Trump presence putting all the more pressure on the first one, right?
Yeah, no, I think this is a very, very important debate. And if we're fortunate tomorrow night, we will not have the kind of cheering that I see you brought with you with your cheering section. I hope the audience behaves so that the viewership can actually listen to the candidates. But you mentioned earlier 100 million. I mean, it's a guess. We don't know. But it's quite possible 3/4 of the people who will actually vote will be watching this debate. There's bound to be some impact. Obviously, if we knew what the candidates were going to say, we'd have a better idea of what it is. But I think people are really going to be glued to this debate. They're going to be analyzing and probably overanalyzing every single facial expression and every word uttered by the two candidates.
But you mentioned the audience and the crowds, and this one behind me notwithstanding, buoyed by some free T-shirts, I'm told, as well. But they do get excited. Now, obviously, the debate moderator has to keep that in check. But how do you do that?
Well, I think they're cheering you, Neil. I think you're being much too modest. I think it's all about you, not the T-shirts.
Well, there's a large Italian-American section here. You're right. Yeah.
Is that? Oh, very good. I'm glad to hear that. Look, I think the moderator does have a role in that, but as I understand it, the moderator and members of the Presidential Debate Commission are coming out in advance to very carefully explain to the audience what their role is, which is to applaud in the beginning and applaud in the end, and otherwise let the candidates do their jobs. I think it's also on the tickets or on the materials they're given. So I hope the audience does the right thing. Some of the primary audiences did not do the right thing, as you remember.
I remember quite well. All right, thank you very much, Larry Sabato. I apologize for the noise, but people are jazzed for this. All right, I understand. It is a loud and raucous crowd here. What is it like? What is it like to be on the stage, let's say with Hillary Clinton? For Donald Trump, that is a challenge. The first time a woman and a man are going to be on a presidential debate stage. A fellow who knows what that is like. Martin O'Malley is next. Forget about the estimated 100 million who will be watching this debate on TV. In this room, about 1,100 seats have been set up. We're told evenly divided 3 ways between supporters for Hillary Clinton, supporters for Donald Trump, and the remainder students from the university. But that's like winning the lottery right there for those students. Better than 7,500 are trying to get dibs on those few hundred seats.